So hi, everyone. We have a whole pile of people just joining, so I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to get in, and then we will kick it off at the top of the hour.
Would you like me to start bringing up the presentation now?
Sure. If you wanna start with your open screen, go for it.
Food service providers.
Yep.
And we're good.
It's still on the transition one, so you'll need to go to slideshow.
There we go.
Perfect. Hi, Joanne. All right. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We have a bunch more still coming. So I'm just going to be slightly distracted, but letting people in as we keep going here. I'd like to start off a couple of introductions. First off, welcome to our Open Farm Day session. Today we are delighted to have Erica with us again. So she has been with us in the past. Some of you will know her from last year as well. And she is doing our 2 back-to-back sessions. So we're doing easy permits 1, 2, 3, and walking you through how to fill in the permits. And we're also going to be talking about food providers, and then of course answering any of the questions that you have about food on your farm for Open Farm Days. So we're going to pass it to her in a second, but I would love to introduce Suzanne Kelly to you guys. So Suzanne is the new manager for Open Farm Days, and she has just joined ACE in a permanent capacity, so we're delighted to have her on board. She's got some great ag history, so 30 years in ag. She's been associated with a couple of different ag societies, both in Airdrie and in Strathmore as an executive level. So she totally gets the farm end of things. So she is just going to be such a tremendous resource for us. So Suzanne, we are absolutely delighted to have you. So as you're receiving information from Open Farm Days, typically it comes from that sort of generic Open Farm Days box, but it'll be Suzanne that'll be kind of the voice behind that. You'll have Nicola, of course, that most of you are used to working with, and she will be doing sort of the PR, that kind of stuff. And I'm still doing all the culinary and regulatory stuff. So we kind of make up the forward-facing part of Open Farm Days. So welcome, Suzanne. And if anyone has any questions, the info at Open Farm Days, your questions will go straight to Suzanne. Suzanne, is there anything you'd like to say hello to?
No, just hi, and I'm looking forward to learning all this stuff and hopefully getting to meet everybody.
Wonderful. All right, so we have a lot of content to cover today, and as usual, after this session, you will get a recording sent to you, so you'll have a copy of the recording. And then we also have a one-pager, which has some links to Alberta Health Services sites. It has some of the nuts and bolts of the content from the presentation from Erica. So it'll kind of help you go through the process. And we are delighted to be doing this because AHS is, well, they're constantly making changes and updating things. There are some new regulations that are in place that are coming. And there's also a loosening of some regulations. So it makes it easy for you to understand what you can do, what you can't do, and maybe what you might just need a little bit of help with. So we're delighted that Erica is going to walk us through that. And for those of you that have done online forums before, obviously it's kind of one of those things you have to do at once. And once you've done it, then you're kind of set up and good to go for future events. So I think it's a good opportunity for those of you that haven't done it to just start that process. But we're going to walk through the online plus the print forms, and And now you can ask any questions that you have if there's any parts that you get stumped at. And Erica, you can just take it away. So Erica, over to you.
Sure thing. Thanks so much. So for those of you who haven't attended before, my name's Erica Denine. I'm a public health inspector with Alberta Health Services, and my service area is St. Paul County. So there's quite a few producers up this way. I'm not sure if any of my people are on the call, but if you are, can't wait to talk to you later about all of this fun stuff. So you may or may not have attended the previous session, food safety on the farm. That was designed for those of you who will be doing things a little bit on the smaller scale. My colleague Ian gave that presentation back in December, so I won't be touching too much on that one. I'm always open for questions though. If you throw them in the chat box, we can try and discuss them as well. But this is really going to be focusing on how to work with food service providers. So just to get started, there's a couple of things I want to go through for definitions before we get into how to work with your food service providers, what type of information you're going to need, what's allowed and what's not, that type of thing. Also, I do tend to talk on the fast side. I am from the Maritimes. So if I am going too quick, just throw up that little flag that I'm going too fast, accents coming out or something like that. I do get wrapped up in it and I'm pretty excited. So it does come out. But if you aren't following along, you need me to slow down, please just say something. So getting ready to jump right into it. One of the most common food service providers that are used for open farm days or for special events is a food truck. So a food truck is actually a permitted mobile food establishment. They are inspected from Alberta Health Services because they are required to carry an Alberta Health Services food handling permit. So fun thing about these guys, they can go anywhere. They can travel anywhere within the province. They will have a zone sticker on their units as well. Unfortunately, I cannot find any of mine right now for a picture. It will have the Alberta Health Services logo on it, as well as a call number so we can identify that unit. It can be anything from your simple hot dog cart that you see on the streets of Edmonton to a fully converted truck. I've even seen half of a semi-trailer converted over to a food truck, and it's cool inside. So they are really a mobile kitchen. They have some limitations on them. They can only prepare and sell food that comes from an inspected source. And that is something that is going to come up frequently, what an inspected source is, whether it be inspected by Alberta Health Services, the CFIA, so Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Alberta Ag. There's many players in the inspection game. So that is one of the biggest things for them is their limitations on what they are allowed to prepare and serve. Another good thing to note with that one is that permits are non-transferable. So if you have a friend who had an old truck that had a sticker on it, used to be permitted, can't just pick it up and go. It does need to have current permits. You can't take that sticker and put it on another truck without letting us know first, because it is very specific. And again, the size of them does dictate what you can do with them. As you can see from my two nice little Google clip art images there, what you can do on a normal little hot dog cart is very different from the taco truck, based on size and space, those types of things there. Another super common one is catering. I believe this was brought up in the previous presentation as well. Caterers also have limitations on them. You have to prepare food from a permitted kitchen, whether that be a community hall, a rec center, a restaurant, whatever it may be. It does have to have a food handling permit, be inspected by AHS to make sure that it meets our standards. So the caterer operates in a permitted kitchen, and they also carry their own food handling permit as an operator. I'll be using that word a lot. It's an overarching term that we use for anybody that we're interacting with, because everybody operates something. So they have to carry their own food handling permits as a caterer. can be something as small as they only do 5 or 6 things a year. It could be the really big guys who do the weddings. There's a whole realm of different styles of catering, different levels of food handling that they do, which may be a good match for your farm. It may not. It really depends what you need from that individual. One thing that's not really covered by a food handling permit for catering for your events is the volunteers who work in the kitchen at the church type of situation. So somebody in that group would have to have a food handling permit. The building would have to have a food handling permit. There'd have to be some kind of oversight. Sort of the community cook-up type of situation to serve to your events isn't something that we'd want to be approving on, because there's just a little too much risk there. We need someone who actually carries that permit with them. So again, common thing that's going to come up: can only prepare food from an inspected source. I believe the previous presentation went over this as well, what's considered inspected. I can definitely dive into it a little bit more if you would like, what's considered inspected and not, what needs it, those types of things later on if you'd like. But they have to follow the same rules as the restaurants do. So they are treated the same as the Boston Pizzas, the McDonald's, the Tim Hortons, all those big chains, even the smaller mom and pop ones as well. They have to follow the same rules of providing food, or preparing food, sorry, from inspected sources. So why do you need a food service provider? Why can't I just set up a barbecue? Why can't I cook everything in my kitchen, throw it in the fridge and serve it the next day? So there are certain situations where food is required to be prepared in an approved facility. Anything that is going to be a prepared, like a high risk packaged products for your customers to take home. So if you are looking to do, let's say you're a pork producer and you want to do pork sausages for your customers to take home from open farm days, you want to have those available for purchase in single packs. You can't make the sausage at home, stuff the casings and sell it. That has to go through a permitted kitchen and someone with food safety training. So that is an absolute must. You can work with restaurants to do it. You can work with some of the colleges even that have maybe a meat cutters course, maybe their food courses, like Portage College has a chef's program. Working with those guys to set that up is an option as well, but you cannot do that type of stuff at home. It has to go through a food service provider. Any of your foods that are being prepared ahead of time and being served for open farm day. So if you're looking at long table dinners, those types of things, that has to go through a catering setup, because the amount of preparation that goes into these high volumes, there's so much that can go wrong with it. We want to make sure that people are following the right procedures to make sure that the food is safe for consumption by the public. We oversee these caterers, we oversee these restaurants. We're aware of what their capabilities are and aren't, what they're able to do safely, and some things that they'll struggle with. So that way you can ensure that the food that is being provided for your event is safe for your customers to consume, and it's going to prevent a foodborne illness outbreak linked back to your farm, right? Nobody wants to get sick when they go out to eat. You definitely don't want people getting sick at your event when you're trying to bring in people to understand your food systems, trying to build that customer base. One of the worst things that can happen with that is that an outbreak is linked back to it. It hits the media, and that's it. Your name will always be connected back to the E. coli outbreak at such and such farm type of thing, right? Some things you can do at home, and that was covered in the previous presentation as well, right? But do you actually have time to do this, right? If you're looking to have 300 or 400 people come through your farm, even 50 people come through your farm, right? Do you have enough time to dedicate to setting up the barbecue, making sure your hand washing station is at the right temperature, having all your utensils, watching the barbecue, cooking everything to temperature, hot holding, cold storage? Can you actually do that while giving the experience to the people who are coming to visit the farm, or is something possibly going to slide there? You guys are throwing on amazing events. You want the public to come and you want to interact with them, show off your farm, show your story. Think about the commitment that's required to do that, to make sure that everything is being done safely. Another big question is, do you have the space and equipment to do this? There are some pretty strict rules about what you can and cannot do for special event food. I keep coming back to the barbecue because that's the common one, easy to do. But you have to have a big enough barbecue. You have to have a fridge or a cooler set up outside to keep your foods cold. You have to have your hot holding. You need to make sure your condiments are covered, your utensils are properly stored. You have enough plates, you have enough napkins, you have the garbages, you have like, there's a lot that goes into this. It's not just simple throw a few burgers on the barbecue. We are trying to prevent people from becoming ill, whether it not even be related to your food products, but just having people around the food, having the sour cream spoil, if you're doing sausages or anything like that. So do you even have the space to set up with everything else you have going on? Do you have the utensils? These are questions you really should be asking yourself. Is this something I can dedicate myself or a family member to and actually be able to do it? Also, when you are talking to your local public health inspectors, this is stuff that we're going to be asking you as well. Can you actually do this? Do you have the time? Do you have the space? Do you have all of these things? And it could be, is in that conversation, you realize, you know what? I want to hire a food truck to come out. I want to hire a caterer to prepare this all for me. And then it's all being served for me. I don't have to worry about these types of things, right? So just some things to keep in mind, whether you need a food service provider or not. We always recommend going with it. Again, talk to your local health inspector. They will know, based on what your particular event is, what you want to do, whether it's feasible to do or not. So let's say you do decide to pick a caterer. You're going to do a long table dinner. And where do you start? What do you do, right? So having worked with caterers before, having worked with Open Farm Days, some of the events have come across my desk, seeing what people want to have set up, right? They're going to need to know things, and we're going to need to know these things as well. And really, how much space do you have, right? You guys are farms. I know you have a lot of space. But in relation to your house, in relation to your dumpsters, in relation to where the animals are, like all these different types of things, where are they actually going to set up? Do they need to have hookups for anything, right? Do they need to hook up to power, water? Do they need anything like that? Are you going to be supplying these things? And that kind of falls under the who provides what there as well, right? And that's something that you work out with these operators as well. So food trucks usually tend to be fully contained, ready to go, to have everything that they need, but they need to refill their water, right? They're designed to run so many plates per day. And that's what their tanks were designed for hand washing, dishwashing, those types of things. They need to refill their water. They may need to dump out their gray water and their their gray water that comes out the back. These are things that you might need to talk to, when you're looking for your food service provider, right? And that's gonna sort of define whether you go with them or not. If you want a food truck versus a caterer, these are the conversations that you have with the people that you're looking at. They're also going to need to know about your product, right? So there is some confidentiality, of course, for your special super secret sausage recipe, right? Have them sign off on a confidentiality about that, but they need to know these things because they also have to be aware of any allergens, right? Whether they consider themselves to be a gluten-free restaurant, if you have these products that do contain gluten, they might not be the right person to work with because then they lose their designation as gluten-free. They need to know how to work with your product. They need to know certain things about it so they can prepare it the best way for your event there. Again, I'll keep coming back to this over and over again, is that all of the ingredients to your food service provider must be inspected. The exception for that is your whole fruits and vegetables. But these food service providers are bound by the food regulation, and that is a critical thing that we look for whenever we are talking with these guys, is that all of the products are coming from inspected sources. So if you're a beef farmer and you want to do your own burgers from your own your own products there, you have to have inspected meat. It has to go to the abattoir. It has to get inspected by egg or CFIA. It has to have the stamp, and you have to show that to your provider there. You can't dig out some hamburger that you've had in your home freezer for the past couple of months and give that for them to use. It absolutely has to come from those inspected sources for the food safety component. So the next part is really bringing your food to the food service provider, right? So with how the different acts are set up within there's the food regulation, there's the meat and dairy inspection act, there's the egg regulation. All these guys have different parts to play in this, and that's something you need to talk to with your food service provider on your dates for pickup. Are they going to pick it up from the processing houses? That's how you want to coordinate. Do you already have a food handling permit, being that an inspector has come to your facility, pardon me, given you a food handling permit, has done your routine inspections, you are a permitted food establishment yourself for storage or sale. How are you going to coordinate that pickup, those types of things? If you're not sure, call your local health inspector. If you're doing slaughter, let's say in May, the event is in August, talk with them on the best ways to handle that type of situation. If you can schedule pickups and processing as close to the event as possible, that is what we prefer. But again, that's something to bring up with your local inspector, because there might be some things we can work with you for proper storage and that type of thing. So if you are a whole fruit and vegetable provider, you can deliver directly from the farm, right? We do want to make sure that your delivery vehicle, however, is clean. Foods are stored to prevent contamination. So they're not just rattling around in the back of the truck. You have things in containers, they have lids on them. If it's stuff that's in bags, the bags are well secured against pests, those types of things. If you're using something a little bit smaller that might also be used as a family vehicle as well, make sure that you've removed your pet accessories. Give it a good vacuum, get the pet hair out, get rid of any chemicals that you have in the back, those types of things, just to prevent any type of contamination. Yes, the restaurants or the caterer or the food truck's going to wash everything first as they're supposed to, but make it easier for them. Clean and sanitary is the goal. And again, another thing that's going to come up a lot is me saying to contact your local public health inspector. We all work together. We all have very similar training and experience, but every district is just different enough. There's local considerations that we take into play. Is that I can't answer for sure this is exactly how it's done every single place in the province. This is how it shall be every single, no rigidity or no flexibility, sorry. So that's why I would keep saying, talk to your local public health inspector if you have questions on how to do this, what you want to do, those types of things, and have those conversations early as well, right? We want to make sure that we give enough time that you guys are able to make any adjustments as needed if you need to, if it's something pretty big, making sure that you get any other agencies involved that you need to, so that you're ready to roll for open farm days. So what can a food service provider do on the farm for me? How much can I hire them for? What limitations do they have? Is this the right thing that I want to be doing here? So, pardon me. And a little bit about this is crossing over between both the mobile food trucks as well as the caterers. So I kind of allude to this a little bit before. What they can do depends on their permit. Right. We permit at different levels based on their setup. So some food trucks are set up, they can only dispense products. So they can only do coffee, popcorn, candy floss or cotton candy, pre-packaged items, chips, candy bars, that type of thing. They're not allowed to do any open food handling. Everything has to be pre-packaged, right? If you're looking to do something that's let's say, again, I keep coming back to burgers because it's an easy one, still recovering from the time change. So you you have to realize what they can and cannot do on their permits. And these food service providers know their limitations, and it is actually written on their permit what they are and are not allowed to do. Some permits will have no restrictions. Then they can do all levels of food handling. Again, some may be restricted to a Class E mobile, or a Class A mobile, which is only, the prepackaged items, or they might be licensed as a hawker, which is only selling whole products, whole agricultural products. Right. So a hot dog cart cannot provide a 3-course meal. They do not have the space or the equipment to do so. Another question that comes up pretty common is, what about the leftovers? So this is an agreement between you and your food service provider. 95% of the ones that I've dealt with for catering straight up say leftovers still belong to us. We do not provide the leftovers back to people, and that's because it is a food safety risk. They do not want to risk having these products going back into public consumption, to the marketplace, or anything like that. So they just say, we're keeping the leftovers, nothing go homes with you, but that's a discussion that you have with them. If they do keep the leftovers, they cannot reserve it or sell it to the public because it was part of an event. It has been served, and you are not allowed to reserve previously served food items. So another question that comes up fairly frequently during the past few years is, can I sell packaged product from a food service provider? Right? If they produce it for you, they can sell it packaged for you. So coming back to pork sausages, right? You cannot make a pork sausage in your home kitchen and sell it to the public, right? You can give them the meat, the spices, the meat that's inspected, sorry, the spices, all those types of things. They will mix it up and make the products, and they can package it for you, and they can sell it under their permit. Unless you are also a permitted facility for some reason, like a warehouse or a wholesale setup. And I say wholesale in the terms of, just for you guys, I'm not thinking like Costco wholesale. I'm thinking the small stuff. If you have one of those selling permits, you can sell it. But if you don't have one, they sell it under their permit for food safety reasons, right? And like everything, there's always an exception. The low risk home prepared products, those are things you can make at home in your home kitchen, package and sell yourself, right? And those are limited to selling on the farm only. So what is a low risk home prepared food, right? And this is fairly new. This only came into effect this year. I believe it's this year. Man, time flies. What has changed is that low risk home prepared foods can now be sold at a special event, which is what Open Farm Days is considered to be. So a low risk home prepared food is a food that's made at home and does not require to be in the refrigerator, right? They have to be sold in a package. You can have a sample size out for people to try, but you cannot have it for open consumption. So what that means is let's go with baked goods because that's easy, cookies. So what you can do is, if you're someone who does cookies, you can sell packs of 12, or you can have little quarters of cookies set out in little sample cups with a lid for people to try prior to purchase. You can do cakes, you can do pies, other baked goods, jellies, jams, and pickles, and those have very specific definitions with us. If you are looking to do that, please talk to your local health inspector about it, because there are legal definitions of a jam, jelly, and pickle. You can do roasted nuts, you can do coffee, you can do candies, dried herbs, dried fruits, anything that is effectively a shelf-stable product. You can do as home prepare and home sales. That being said, there are banned ingredients. You cannot use unpasteurized milk. Hard stop. You cannot cook with it. You cannot bake it. You cannot use it. You also cannot have anything that's a milk product as well that's not being baked. Yes, you need to put milk into some breads. That's fine. But you can't have anything that's a cream or custard filling. You cannot have cheesecake because that is a milk product. You cannot have anything with uncooked or uninspected eggs. Okay, if your backyard hens are overproducing, you can sell them under the egg regulation at the farm gate. You cannot put them into your cakes, cookies, and pies. You have to go purchase your eggs for that, unless they are for some reason graded by an actual egg grader through Alberta Agriculture. Right. I alluded this to a little bit. Cream fillings and icings are also banned. You can only do your sugar icing, so your royal icing or buttercream, as long as it doesn't contain egg, cream, or cream cheese. And the reason why we put that in is that some of the Swiss meringues do contain eggs. Again, that's not allowed at this point. Your buttercream is your butter, your sugar, your vanilla, and your sugar icing, so your royal icing, which is your water, meringue powder, powdered egg whites, and no raw egg whites are allowed, and water. And again, if you're not sure, contact your local public health inspector if what you want to do is allowed or not, if there's any extra considerations we need to talk about. So I've put in a link there, which doesn't seem to be a link at the moment. So alberta.ca/low risk home prepared foods. If you even just Google home prepared food Alberta, Google should take you to the right link that talks about what you can and cannot do at home. And I think there's a handout available as well for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. So how do I pick a food service provider, right? Find who can do what you want to do, see who you have a connection, those types of things. Always ask for a copy of their food handling permits. If you want, you can also ask for their latest inspection report before booking. All of our inspection reports are also available online. So I'll show you on our public website in the second part of this how to access that. With everything that's happened in the past 2 years, we might be a little bit behind on getting to our routines right now. So if it hasn't been inspected in, let's say, 2 years or so because they haven't been operating, you can make that a condition of picking them, is that they have to have their inspection done. They need to have everything up to date with us, right? Confirm with them that they can produce what you want under their license. Don't just assume that they have a permit that they can do it. I have a bakery that that does cookies. That's all that they're permitted for. They would not be a good person to go to do a 3-course meal because they are not permitted for that, and then they'd actually be breaking their food permit restrictions on them as well, right? So how do I apply for this special event? That's part 2 of this presentation here. We've gone digital. This happened in the past year or so. I've included written directions. You go to planning and events, those types of things, and we'll go through that with the next presentation there as well. We like digital, we like paper, we like however you want to get in touch with us. We just want to have that conversation with you. We want to make sure that this is going to be a healthy event for everybody involved. And how do you contact your local public health inspector? If you search environmental public health, Alberta Health Services, it's a little bit hidden, but I will show that in the next presentation as well. I thought we were going to have a break between 2 events, but we're all in one. So I can actually show that to you, how to get in touch with us, how to find the list of different service areas, or just send it off into our general inbox and, hey, I need to talk to a health inspector. Can somebody please call me? And my favorite question that I get during this whole process is, why do I need to do this, right? These food trucks can drive around, go where they want, do what they want, those types of things. Yes, a food truck can pick up and drive off and go set up in downtown Edmonton, and then 2 days later be in Airdrie, and then go wherever they want to go, right? It's a little bit different because you guys are an event. You're advertising as an event. You're asking people to come to your farm. You are booking a food truck. We want to be involved with that because there is a little bit more to it than just the food. And again, next presentation, we are going to be going through a lot of different things that we also look at to make sure that you're having a safe event. And notification to the health department is part of the food regulation when you are putting on a special event. Letting us know is part of that. And if you haven't done it before, that's fine. This is a great chance to start that conversation. We're not going to look back to what happened the past 6-10 years. We're going to look at what's happening right now, make sure that you're good to go, that you're in a safe spot, and to make sure that you have a really good event. We can give you advice to how to run your event smoothly. If you run through your timeline with us, we might notice something that you haven't. We're a set of fresh eyes. We might see something that you didn't think of, like maybe you forgot that you're going to have 400 people at your event and have no bathrooms, right? We want to make sure that everything is covered as much as we can. We can give you some good advice on what's worked well in the past and what hasn't. We also want to prevent possible foodborne illness. If you attended that previous presentation, Ian talked about different things that can happen. You can have an E. coli outbreak that happens due to poor preparation of meat products, or maybe there's a salmonella issue because uninspected eggs were used in a raw egg product, right? We don't want that to happen, right? Our whole goal is prevention of disease. That is what we want to prevent from happening. And you don't want to have these things happen on your farm because, like I said a little bit there before, media gets a hold of the facts of this and your name will forever in Google be linked to an outbreak that happened at your farm. And that can have long reaching effects, not just on those who happen to get sick, but on your business as well. And as a producer, right? And you know what? Getting in touch with us is always a great thing because it's a great way to create a connection with us. If you have future events that you want to do outside of open farm days, we're a great person to talk to make sure everything's covered. It might get to the point that this is so successful, you're like, you know what? I want to do this full time. I want to sell, pardon me, hiccups. And say this goes really well. You have a lot of interest in your beef processing and your beef products. Hey, I want to get a food handling permit so I can sell, have a freezer and sell these products year round and, have a business startup, right? It's a great way to connect with us. And then we might even have some ideas on how that's going to work best for you and what's possible and what's not. So yeah, we're pretty easy to talk to. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that everything is good. And that you have a really safe and healthy event. Okay. So that is it for working with your food service providers. Tannis, are there any questions I should address before moving to the next one?
Yes, hold on. Let me just get it. And if anyone else has some, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And you can put them, I mean, they don't have to come just to me. They can come to everyone, but I've got a couple of questions here. So if I rent a hot dog cooker for the weekend from a rental company and I'm serving inspected wieners, how do I go about that safely? Also considering cooking and serving our own corn on the cob.
So this is gonna be my favorite phrase today. You should talk to your local public health inspector. There is equipment that is available for rent. That's great. We want to make sure that you're doing it safely. So as an open farm days events, talk to your local inspector, let them know this is what I want to do, because they might have some questions about the equipment that I can't ask right now because it's specific to your event and your farm. And they're going to want to talk to you about how you're doing your corn on the cob. Yes, it sounds pretty basic, but they're going to want to make sure that you have enough spacing from where you're going to be cooking it, how you're serving it, those types of things, trash cleanup. It is possible to do it. I'm not going to say it's totally no, but that is something you really do want to talk to with your local inspector because that is something that's very specific to your event.
Okay, and I've got a second one. Are we able to sell condiments at our market if they're not produced in a commercial kitchen? And the rest goes on to say, I seem to recall we're able to do that, but we fall under farmers markets, but wanted to confirm. Okay. And the follow-up piece to that is the condiments are basic, jams, jellies, pickle type things, low risk.
Okay. Farmers markets. All right. So farmers markets are a beast of their own that I don't really want to tackle too far on this. So if your product meets the definition of a low risk home prepared food product, so you would have to go to that website and confirm that what you are doing meets that definition of a low risk home prepared food product. you would be able to sell that at the farm only. But again, check with your local public health inspector that the product that you want to sell is okay. The definition of jams, jellies, and pickles does have to do with percent salt, percent acid, your percent solids, and percent sugars, right? So talking with us will let us know that if you're meeting those targets, whether it falls into a jam, jelly, or pickle, or if we're looking to some other type of canned product that's not allowed at this time because it doesn't meet those specific definitions, right? So talk to your local inspector about it, confirm that your recipes that you're using do meet the standards for those items, and they'd be able to direct you a little bit more just to make sure that everything's covered.
All right, wonderful. So I've got another question, seeking clarification on selling farm fresh eggs. I am under 300 hens, but I do sell and deliver farm fresh eggs to a client base. For open farm days, do I require anything to sell these eggs?
I do not enforce the egg regulation that falls under Alberta agriculture. However, if you are selling eggs from the farm gate, as long as the eggs are free from cracks, in good condition, and washed, and they are in a container that states uninspected and very clear big letters, they can be sold for household use only. So you cannot supply a restaurant with these eggs. They have to be stated uninspected, and they have to be kept at a temperature of 4 degrees or colder. 7 degrees or colder for eggs at all times. Again, talk to your local public health inspector to make sure that everything is covered that way.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions that we have right now for this one. So if, and again, feel free to put the questions into the chat and we will we'll answer them at the end of the next session as well. But let's get on to filling in the permits.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. Stop sharing for a second.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Tannis, you're gonna have to help me because the options changed on this.
Okay, so along the bottom, you
Yep.
should see your screen share.
Yes. Oh, there we go. We're good.
Yeah, and your presentation's just coming up and you'll just have to go to slideshow.
Yep. Of course, this happens in the second one.
And I do appreciate you walking us through this one because I've dealt with so many of the farms over the years as they're going through the forms, and there's just some odd and awkward questions that it's hard when you don't know what those answers are. So this is just such a great opportunity. And for those of you that are on the call, do feel free to pull up the permit and follow along if you want to start sort of even filling out your own permit as we go. The only problem, and Erica will get into this, is AHS does want these forms filled in at least 30 days out, but they don't want them right now. So we're a little too far out. So we kind of had that conversation and I said, what if people fill them out right now and send them in? And she said, honestly, it's with August so far away, she said it'll probably drop to the bottom of the list and you might sort of be forgotten about. So we're a little bit too early. But if you have those forms and you're following along with Erica, you will know exactly what to put in those lines. And you can do the print copy and send in the print copy. You don't have to do the online form, and then it's kind of ready to go. So I would certainly encourage people to do that. But I will pass it over to you, Erica.
Yes, thank you for saying that. It's not that we don't want to interact with you and that we we don't think it's important. It is important to us for sure. I hope that's really come across, that we do want to work with you and make sure that you do have a good event. But if you do submit too early, there is the chance that it just gets dropped in the shuffle of paperwork that we do have to deal with. I have small mountains on my desk, and I know there's a special event in there somewhere. I just haven't seen it for a while, and I know it is there, it is on my radar, but our job is very demand based. Everything changes on a dime with us. So if you submit it at least 30 days out, if you want to do, let's say 2 months out, you're probably in that sweet spot. But again, we do want to hear from you, and I'll go over sort of what happens, what you put that application out into the world. I'll go through sort of how it travels through our system as well, so you understand why it might take us a while to get to you there. So just moving right into the second one, and this one's going to be a little bit longer because the back end of it, of actually going through the form, does take a good chunk of time to deal with. So depending on our time, we might actually work through the form physically, or I think I've got like 16 screenshots we can work through as well. So moving right into it, again, some of this stuff is legal definitions because we do enforce the food regulations. So I want to make sure it's very clear that there is differences that we're looking at here. So permits versus a special event approval. So a food handling permit is for a business or individual who wants to sell food to the public that is not covered by another agency. Right? So this is something that is a permanent thing. This is what you are doing. They are an annual fee. They are an annual permit with annual or multiple inspections per year. It is very much what's, again, picking on what's in St. Paul, Boston Pizza, McDonald's, Tim Horton has, right? So this is your restaurants, your caterers, food trucks, concessions, gas stations, snack bars, warehouses, home sales, if they fall into that category, all types of different things. You do have to apply for one. There's a lot that we go over when you're getting a food handling permit. It is quite the process. There are fees that are related to it, and there are the routine inspections by Alberta Health Services through our health inspectors program. We do not give permits to home kitchens. If you're thinking, oh, great, I can do a permit on my home kitchen so I can get around having to use a caterer for my stuff, we don't do that. Home kitchens are for home. Secondary kitchens are for commercial use, which is what a food handling permit is for. Because you guys are not food handling permit facilities, you are looking for a special event approval. So this is a temporary food establishment. It's a one-off thing that's happening. This is not an everyday occurrence. This is open farm day. So the word permit gets thrown around interchangeably. I just want to make sure it's very clear what a permit and an approval is, and you guys are going for the approvals, right? Permit holders and special event organizers, which are you guys are required to follow the Alberta food regulation, right? There's a section specifically for special events within the Alberta food regulation, and that is what is going to apply to you. You know what? Google the Alberta food reg and read it. It's not a really hard read. It is written in fairly plain language. And then you can even see exactly what we are looking for when we are talking to you, and the things that we do consider when we're looking to do these special events. So getting into the fun nitty-gritty paperwork type stuff. As the farm, you are the event organizer, right? You are under the banner of Open Farm Days, but each farm is its own event organizer. So you have to fill out the notification form at least 30 days prior to the event. Sooner we receive the forms, the sooner we can review. However, too soon, there is a chance it will get lost in the shuffle. You're looking for that 30 to 60 day sweet spot, because then we will see that it has come through and there's enough time within those 60 days to make any adjustments that you need to do. Pardon me. So if you are doing food yourself, or you're hiring, pardon me, anyone into this, there's a food vendor notification form as well, right? So there's an organizer form and the vendor form. So the overall organizer form is big. It talks about bathrooms and sinks and layouts and that type of stuff. The food vendor form tells us about your food that you plan to do. So the organizer form comes to us. That usually triggers us to start looking for the vendor form. Sometimes when we call you, the vendor form isn't there yet. We can work through that at that time, right? Even if you're planning low risk foods, if you're just going to, let's say you are a brewery or distiller or some type of alcohol producer, so your license requires you to have certain types of food products. If you fall under the AGLC license that all you need is the prepackaged food, still tell us, like, I'm going to go buy a case of chips at Costco. Just let us know that's what you're doing, and then we know you're low risk. We can put you into that category. Right. So you can find our forms online, ahs.ca/EPH, so environmental public health. Go through the planning the event parts. I will show you how to get to that website and what's going on with that one. Right. The information packets can be very useful, right? So it's a really big PDF, but it's a good thing to go through because it's going to tell you guys what we're looking for, how many bathrooms you're going to need based on your occupancy, where to put your trash cans, how much water, all those types of things, right? Always recommend that you give it a read through. Again, it's written in very plain language, very easy to understand, and it might just make your planning a little bit easier for you. So our physical forms can be used year to year if nothing changes. So you'll still have to print off a new one. You'll still have to fill it out. But you don't have to do anything super drastic to it other than the year change, right? The date change. Online, if you're doing it that way, you still have to fill out a new form each year because it doesn't save anything. So you don't create an account and reuse it. It's a one-time submission thing. I recommend that you print off the paper form. So you have it handy, you know exactly what information we're going to be looking for, when you have to put everything in by, and it'll help keep you a little more organized that way. If you have questions about doing this, if you're not really sure, you're looking on the website, you can't find the link, it's just not working for you, you're a people person, you want to talk to somebody, again, call your local office. We'd be happy to talk to you about what you need to do. We can help you through this as much as we can. We're not IT, so we can't fix some things, but we can definitely help you out with some of the more stuff that falls into our area. So this kind of relates back to the previous presentation. Why do you even have to tell us that you're doing this? So we're going to ask you about bathrooms. What bathrooms are accessible to the public? You cannot say that they can go into my house and use my bathroom. Your systems, assuming you're all rural, most likely means that you're on a septic system. You weren't really designed for that when your system was built. So there's a consideration there. How are people going to wash their hands? That's always our biggest number one question. Where do you wash your hands, right? Biggest way to break the chain, what we call the chain of transmission, how disease is spread, washing your hands, washing your hands, washing your hands. We're going to ask about your trash cans and waste management. Where are they going to be? What are you going to do when they're full? Who's going to take it away? Those types of questions. We're going to ask about parking. How far away is the parking from your event? Is there going to be a big safety concern there? Your potable water supply. If you're providing water to your food service providers, is your water potable? When was it last tested? What were the results? Those are types of things we're going to talk about. We're going to ask about how you can provide electricity. Are you using generators? Are they going to hook up into your house? Things to consider there. Other activities that are going on during open farm days are one thing that caught me by surprise one year was cow patty bingo. I did not know that was a thing. And I had some questions about that when I first saw that on the list of what exactly is this? I envisioned kids playing with cow patties for bingo. Nope, it's a cow walking in the field. Totally different risk level. We're going to ask if you've talked to your other agencies. Have you talked to AGLC? Have you talked to, do you need anything from fire? Do you have anybody else you need to be talking to about this based on what you're planning on doing? Given the current climates, there might be other special directives that are in play that we need to talk to you about, like capacity limits, spacing, hand sanitizer, those types of things. So what I'll do now, I guess, is I will walk you through how to do the form online. Looks like we're still pretty good for time. Again, takes about half an hour to go through everything. So if you guys are ready to do this for real, set aside a good half hour to go through the form. The first time you go through, it's a little clunky, but it does get easier the more you use it, like any kind of technology. We still have paper copies. I will show you how to access those things as well. So you can mail it to us, you can drop it off, you can fax it. I was joking earlier, you can use a carrier pigeon. You know what? If we get the information one way or another, we're happy to have it so we can make sure that we do a risk assessment to make sure everything's covered and ready to roll. And you can keep the paper copy as your guide from year to year, the things you have to remember to book. Oh, I got to make sure I've got the septic guy coming, that I've got the porta potties booked, that I'm going to get them pumped out, all those different types of things there. So we'll see if this is going to work for me today. It worked yesterday. Or we're going to do this differently. Right. I'm going to flip over. And
Yeah,
are
as
we
wait,
good?
oh, I was just going to jump in and just for everybody following along, in the one pager that's going to come out, we do have all the links that we're talking about. So you will have all of those links easily accessible for
Yeah,
you.
and a lot of this can be done through Google as well. If you lose that link thing, if you type special events, Alberta Health Services special event, food, Alberta Health Services, AHS food, health inspector, it will all eventually bring you somewhere, hopefully to this page here. Is it showing up fine?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Our picture does change frequently, depending on what's going on. So a month ago, it was for personal services. So there was a barbering picture. Now that we do enforcement for Tobacco Smoking and Vaping Reduction Act, oh, it's mouthful. That's the picture that's going to change up. So as our priorities change, as new things come out, it might look a little bit different in a few months. I don't know. But this is our environmental public health website. It is an AHS site, as you can see. Lots of cool information here. So focusing, we're going to do the planning of events, but I do want to show you restaurant inspections. So anybody with a food handling permit in Alberta will be in here. I'm not going to do too deep of a dive because I want to do the event. How to do water samples. So your chemical and bacterial water samples, courses you can take. Over here is our advisory section. So blue-green algae, hepatitis A warnings, anything like that was a media release will be in here. So you can see that. And then we get into some other good stuff, emergencies at home, planning and events, animal bites, housing, all kinds of different information. If you have the time and the interest, poke around, see what's there. There's some pretty cool stuff. And one thing I do want to show you is that if you don't know how to get in touch with us, you don't know what's going on, you lost the sheet on who it is, you don't know what zone they're in, make a complaint, request our service, or ask a question. That's really what it is. It'll take you to our online submission site. I can show you that after the event stuff too. And you can just put into the question, hey, I have a question for health inspector. Can somebody call me? My name is Joe Smith and my number is blah, 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 right? And it will get to whoever it belongs to, and we will get in touch with you. So swinging back into this, planning an event, this is where you guys are going to want to be. And then we have our events site. So there's a lot of information on here. So as Open Farm Days, you fall into an event that is open to the public, you have vendors, and it's not volunteering or for charity, right? So you guys are a special event, and you must notify us. So information package is here. Again, it's a pretty big PDF. I'm not going to open it right away. We have our notification form here. This is the PDF that you can print off at home as your guide, or if you want to drop it off at the office and talk to us. Not all offices are open like that. A lot of the rural ones are, but there's no guarantee. And then we have our online submission form. if it's going crazy, if you just can't access it, it won't load in your browser, it keeps crashing out. This is one of our contacts that you can email to, like, hey, I've tried submitting 4 times, it keeps failing. Can somebody help me? So that's one way to get that one done. Before you do your notification, make sure you got your AGLC application forms done as well, because we do sign off on those. So bring that into your local office. We'll sign off for AGLC. We're still going to ask you to do the notification form for us, because there's a whole bunch of different information versus what AGLC wants to know. So diving right into it, just to show you real quick. This is what the paper form is. If you want to fill it out this way, print it off and bring it in, you can totally do that as well. It is a very good guide on what you need to think about when you're doing the online form as well. So we've got what's happening, right? What other things you're doing, a petting zoo. If your animals are open for petting, I guess, let us know. We're still interested, even if you're not booking it. Because we're going to have some questions about hand sanitizer and food and all kinds of different things, right? So I'm not going to go totally through it. It is 4 pages long. It gives you a really good idea. Again, it's a printable form. You can fill and print it. You can email it. We're just happy to be in touch with you. So flipping back to what it looks like when we're doing our online notification form. And if it freezes out, it blocks off something, somebody please tell me. I didn't practice this part beforehand, just the PowerPoint. So let me know if something goes a little bit wonky with it. So our special event notification, again, 30 days before your event, you're looking for that 60 to 30 day sweet spots. You cannot save and return. You got a one-shot deal to do this. So make sure you've got your ducks ready to go. Once it's submitted, you can change it for up to 7 days if something changed or you made a mistake. After that 7 days, it is locked, and you won't be able to make changes unless you call and talk to us about it. So for event details, what our name is going to be Open Farm Days. Farm Days, Denines Farm. Put in your address. We're looking for your green sign address here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, Range Road 145, right? County Minburn, Alberta, Bravo 1 Kilo 8. I don't know if these are correct. I'm just making stuff up here, right? So more information about your address, event address, will be in the back 40 of my farm. Okay, gives us an idea kind of what we're expecting when we look at this. County of Minburn will be central zone. If you're not sure, there is a map. I believe Tannis has that in that handout for you guys on where you fall into our zones.
Yes, we do.
And if you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world, right? We'll realize that something's not lining up. We will give you a call, confirm where your address is, and make sure it gets to the right inspector. So again, and there's also link, find your zone. You can click on that. It'll bring up our map, and you can sort of see where you fall into it. Quite a few communities are right on the borderline, and it's not super clear. So make your best guess. If you're not sure, we'll make sure that we get to you. Right. So Open Farm Days is in years. Whoops. We are August 19th or 20th this weekend here.
13, 14.
13, 14. Wow. Okay, so August 13th, drop down menu. I didn't design this website. Okay. It's very finicky. It's going to do this even though you're not done yet, right? So it's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to finish at 9:30 at night, right? And we're going to go to the 14th here. Again, let's do 11 because it was a rough night. And we're going to close up shop early because I want to go to dinner. Okay, picked up the days there. So you're only the weekend. there's only certain things that apply. Longer events have different requirements to them. So if anyone's been to Heritage Days, K-Days, Calgary Stampede, any of those special events have different things about them. Yes, they're a lot bigger, but it's also because they're a lot longer as well. Okay, so we go next. How many people do you expect each day? So I took bookings for 400 people a day, and I am doing AGLC. So yes, I know I need to go get their approval. So what am I going to be doing? Right, I'm going to have a temporary food establishment because I'm doing a long table dinner. I'm also going to have a taco truck because I like tacos. I do not have a petting zoo coming to me, but kids can pet the sheep. There. I'm not doing personal services. So if you're doing anything that involves touching people, right? Even if you're not sure if it's aesthetics, massage, piercing, microblading, tattooing, suspension, all that stuff, anything like that, let us know what you're doing. I'm going to have an inflatable as well, bouncy capsule. UNC capsule in the front one. On. Sorry. There you go. So it gives me an idea. Open farm days, long table dinner. Dinner and taco truck. Okay. It will not let you move forward unless you fill it in. That's something I found playing around with it the other nights. You have to have something in to proceed to the next one. And we don't need the super detailed stuff at this point. This is the notification for us to get in touch with you to talk to you about what you want to do. Okay. Next, who do you want to talk to? Here's 9. 6 office phone number. Oh, whoops, tornado. 3396. And address is 5610 50 Avenue, St. Paul, Alberta. 381. Okay, again, this is all information that you put in. You do have to have an email address because we may want to send some stuff back and forth to you. And this is how you're going to get your notification as well that you have successfully submitted and you're linked to do any type of editing 7 days after, up to 7 days after. Am I going to be on site during the event? Yes, I am, because it's my house. Doing good so far? Everything's loading good?
Yes.
Okay. Permanent toilets versus temporary toilets. There is actually a schedule under the nuisance regulation on how many toilets you have to have for how many people that are coming. That being said, if you're expecting 400 people a day, you're not expecting 400 in one chunk, I hope. Or if you are, we'll talk about that too. If you're having 30 here, 40 there, 20 here, it's going to be like kind of a trickle event. Base that off of what you expect to have per people at that time. So if you're not expecting more than 40, you only need 3 toilets, right? So I have 0 permanent toilets. I don't want people in my house. I'm going to have 8 temporary toilets come in. I have 0 permanent sinks. Again, temporary sinks, I'm going to have 3, right? Will you providing hand sanitizer at toilets? Yes, you know what? Always have hand sanitizer. We love this stuff. It's great. Sometimes we can approve the hand sanitizer without a hand washing station, but that's usually at things like public parks or provincial parks and that type of thing. We always say use hand sanitizer. It's always a great thing to have around. Okay. And this is where it gets into that nitty gritty and why I said this isn't just about the food part. We're looking at your overarching event here. So are you providing potable water, a municipal water supply or a water hauler? Yes, water hauler. Water haulers used to have food handling permits on them. Now they have letters of approval. So if you're going to be hauling in water specifically for this event and only for this event, and they're running off of their tanks, we need to know who it's going to be coming by. If you want to use your own water that you've hauled to your own cistern, talk to your public health inspector on whether you'd be allowed to do that or not. Some additional testing might be required at that point. Yes, I'm supplying electricity. I am using a generator. Are you providing hand washing sink for each vendor? Ensure all vendors have a supply a hand washing sink. So nope, they have to bring their own hand sink with them. If they're a mobile, cool, they've got one built in, or they better have one built in. If you're using a catering company to come do everything for you, there's going to be things we go over with them about setting up a temporary food establishment. And then one of those things is hand washing stations. No, I'm not providing a dishwasher. They have to go take their stuff with them. No, they do not have access to my kitchen because it is not a permitted kitchen. No, I am not providing wastewater collection. They have their own gray water. One thing we might ask about with this one is that if you do have temporary hand washing sinks set up for your vendors, are you going to let them dump their gray water into a drain that leads to a septic system? I know we're out in the country. I know we're out in rural Alberta. You're still not really supposed to dump that on the ground wherever. But we're just going to ask about that. Are you providing garbage collection from the sites? Yes, they will throw in personal dumpster and will be trucked on schedule. Jeez. Okay. This is also a form that is designed for those big events like Heritage Day, where they have to do garbage collection twice a day, how many dumpsters they have, those types of things. So for those really big events, Heritage Day has to fill out the exact same form. So it is designed for the bigger guys. That being said, there's still stuff you have to fill out as a smaller events that we still want to discuss with you. Reprocessing for personal services does not apply to this event. Are you providing sharps collection for personal services? Does not apply to this event. And this has to do with the tattoo festivals that happen around the province as well. Okay. Have you posed any restrictions on the vendors? So things like they're not allowed to cook on site, they can't use their own generator, they can only do prepackaged foods. You don't want them doing anything else while they're there. You can put whatever you'd like. Must follow home permit restrictions. Permit restrictions. Geez. No access to house. Okay. So just pop something in there so we know if there's anything special that you've asked them to do or not to do. So provide details for every vendor offering food, samples, or personal services. So we're going to go with Tim's Taco Truck. His decal number, if you don't know it yet because they're new starting up and they haven't got their decal yet, you're not sure what their decal is, please call and ask them what it is. Each zone starts with three letters depending on what zone they're in. So for North Zone, it is NTH -185 or whatever it is. We are up into, I think, the 1900s by now for stickers. So it could be 3 digits, could be 4 digits, 1857, right? Contact person is Tim. His phone number, there's a phone number. And then he is a food vendor. I'm also using Kathy's catering. She doesn't have a decal number because it's a caterer. Contact is Kathy. And her phone number is, there we go. And again, she is a caterer. Okay, pretty easy, pretty simple to fill out, basic things. And you can have up to 10. But if you're getting to that point, I think we need to have a bigger discussion than open farm days. So next, oh, error on this page, please fix before continuing. Okay, so this field is required. They have to have an email address. There are a few out there who do not have email yet. I do have a few of them in my district. You can put your email in place. Okay. Next, attach a site map or for your event here. Okay, so this is where a lot of people start to panic. Oh my God, I need to draw something super elaborate. I need blueprints. I need professional. You can draw it on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper by hand. It needs to be legible. So I need to be able to read it and see it and understand what I'm looking at. Things do need to be labeled. It doesn't necessarily have to be to scale. A rough approximation will be fine. We're looking for where your vendors are going to set up, including your mobile vendors. Make sure there's enough space, no interactions or activities that can't interact with each other, where the portable washrooms are going to be, where the hand sinks are going to be for those washrooms, if there's any other sinks. So if it's a food vendor, caterer who's working under a tent, where their hand sink is going to be, your garbage sites, your wastewater collection sites, put everything up there. Put where you're going to put your picnic tables, where the show and shine for the tractor is going to be, where the cow field is for cow patty bingo. Like, give us a really great view of what we're looking at here, because we want to understand this as best we can, so that when we do give you a call to talk, we know what we're looking at. We know where some of these risks might be that we need to pay attention to, all that type of stuff there. You can color it, you can do it in black and white, you can be a little bit creative, whatever floats your boat for that point. Do pay attention here, because the file format does matter. It has to be I'm going to GIF, PNG, PNG, or a PDF file. What you can do is you can draw it on paper and scan it in. You can draw it in MS Paint. If you're very tech savvy, there's Google Docs you can use. You can take a picture of the paper you had on your desk as a PDF and send that in to us. We can get pretty creative with it, but we do really need to have that information so we understand what we're looking at. So we go to upload a file. Easy button. There we go. It's attached. We're good to go. Okay. And additional comments, please contact as I have questions about jams, jellies, pickles, and eggs. Okay, move on to next. Okay, and you're the person completing it, so Erica Denine, and today's dates. And then I'm not going to push submit because I didn't warn our admin process what is coming. So I don't want them to get a junk one that comes through. They've got enough on their plate right now. I don't really need to add anything else to it. So you can save it at this point. You will not be able to close the browser window and reopen it. Okay, so you save it just in case your computer crashes at this moment or freezes. But if you close the window, it's gone. Right? So you click submit. You'll get an email of your submission, so you'll have a copy of it as well. So when we call you in a month, you're like, I don't remember writing that, you can flip back and confirm that yes, that is what I put on the form. And then there's a link in that email that you can edit your submission as well. So if you go to bed tonight, you realize, oh shoot, I forgot that I also want to have the crab shack come out as well. You can go back and edit and add that information in the next day. So that is how you fill out the special event form. I feel like I went through that really fast though. Anything pop up that should be addressed at this point?
I do have a couple questions, and
Okay.
then there's a couple of things that you and I had chatted about it as well.
Yes.
So there are some regulation changes for the portable toilets.
Yes.
For gender. I don't know that we touched on that.
So yes, there is that split between, in the nuisance regulation, it does say you have to have this many for men, this many for women. I will tell you, in the 7 years I've been doing this, I have never made the difference. I've always gone with the more washrooms for women, just like that. So for men, you would need 9+. If you had 400 people, and I'm not remembering this perfectly, so it might not be correct. So for 400 people, you assume a gender difference 50-50. You need 9 for men, 9 for men, 11 for women. That's just what I go with. I don't say that you have to designate this shall be a woman's washroom. I just say you have to have the 18 in total or 19 in total, right?
So now, if I might, so
Mhm.
we know that people are sort of spread out through the day. So if you have 1 to 25 people at any point in time, you
Yeah.
require 1.
Yes.
So you don't need any special gender ones or anything else.
Yes.
So that is 200 people through the course of the day, or perhaps 400 people for the weekend. So
Yes.
if, you know, when we have sort of registration stuff like that, we can kind of control those numbers. So if you think you're in that, then you're fine to go with 1. And there is a link to the charts of how many you need based on the people that you have.
Yes.
And then you can kind of look accordingly.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say the same thing, is that I thought I mentioned it, maybe I just talked a little too fast there, is that washroom requirement is on how many people you have on site at any one time. So I have Centerfield Music Festival. It is an event, they expect to have 4,000 people over the course of the day. So they and that's like from gate to gate, and they know people are going to stay for the whole set of concerts. So they have to meet that requirement for bathrooms, right? If you have booked it, and from previous years, that's, you know, you're going to have 20 people, no more than 20 people at one time, that's the number that you go with, right? Heritage, I pick on Heritage Days because it's such a huge food event, and it is unreal how much work goes into it. Their washroom requirements are different based on how many people over the course of the day, because of the food and the alcohol and the placement. There's a whole much more to it. You guys, if you're not expecting more than 101 hour chunk, like that's the maximum you're going to let on the farm at that one time, that's the number that you go with, not the 400 over the whole weekend. And I think that's something that Tannis works with you guys as well, is that plan out your days so that you don't have 100 people coming in one giant clump, because then do you have enough people on your side to do the tour and the food and everything else you want to do? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with that as well. If this is your first time doing this, your first time looking to rent the bathrooms, I always recommend getting at least 1 more than you think you're going to need. I know they do cost money and they are a pain to have, but it's better to have more bathrooms than you need than not enough, and then you run into some pretty serious trouble that way. I remember events where the only thing I remember is that I couldn't find a bathroom, and that's not what you want to have taken away from your farm, is that there was too crowded, not enough bathrooms. I don't want to deal with this again. So yeah, and again, that's something you can talk about with your health inspector as well. If you're not sure how many bathrooms you need, we have the charts handy. We can look through it, talk you through what you need to look at, to make sure that you do have enough, but not in complete excess.
Yeah.
So does that touch the bathroom?
Yes, it
Requirement
does.
you're looking for? Okay.
Yeah, and I do have a question that's popped up, but there is a link to this for HS and the chart for the bathrooms.
Yes.
And of course, as Open Farm Day partners, that's something that we help you guys out with as well. So more information will be coming out on that very shortly. Obviously, we've just opened the Open Farm Days registration. So we'll have that information coming out to you as well. So you'll receive it as part of this presentation, but you will also receive some separate stuff as part of an Open Farm Days farm. So you'll get it a couple of times. So don't worry about that piece. Okay, I have a bunch of questions, and some are sort of related to this and some are not.
Okay.
So I'm going to stick on a couple of things quickly on this form. I would strongly recommend that you do this instead of the online form. I would strongly recommend that you do the print form. And the reason I would say that is for our Open Farm Days farms that are here every year and doing events, if you do this on like that print copy, and if you save that, all you have to do is change the date each year and update little things of what you're doing. So our farms that have done this before are like, oh, this is great, I just need to change the date, because everything else for the most part has stayed the same. So that's kind of a easy way that you do it once, really, and then just tiny tweaks each year. So something that I would say is probably not a bad idea for you. So I'm going to move on to a couple of the questions here. Do I need a special event approval if I'm hosting our daughter's wedding at the farm and food will be served? It's not really open
No.
farm days, but
No. If
Private
it
event.
is something that the way we define a special event is that if it's advertised to the public, whether that be through word of mouth, through Facebook, through that type of thing, open advertising. If it's something that you wouldn't just walk into off the street, you do not need an approval for it. So private weddings, obviously that is a private event because you need to be invited. Even if you're having an open reception to, hey, we're only having 15 for the ceremony, but we're doing this big thing, you're being physically invited to it. So like a birthday party, you're being invited. A funeral reception, you're being invited. A personal invitation, you do not need a special event approval for. If you're having, hey, we're having a fire tonight, you want to come by, if you want to swing by, you don't need an event for that. It's when you're advertising to, hey, we're doing open farm days, we have all this cool stuff planned, come check us out, then you need a special event approval, that type of thing. So if anybody off the street could feasibly walk into it and not feel out of place or not be asked to leave, then it would not require the special event approvals.
Perfect.
And if you're not sure, call your local health inspector.
Okay, next question. We are working with a charity partner, and they are going to be hosting a barbecue at our Open Farm Days event.
Okay.
So it's a registered charity.
Okay.
The food is not being sold, but they will be collecting donations.
Okay.
Does that fall under a separate category?
That would still fall under your open farm days because we're still going to be asking about those things like bathrooms, right? So we're still going to ask food safety questions about the charity events because it's happening under the umbrella of open farm days. You still do need to notify us because there is a food component, even though it's for charity. Because that would almost even be worse is that if there's an outbreak links to a charity barbecue at an open farm days event, still talk to us, right? I mean, if you're not sure in any of this, you can call your local office. You can send it in through that email thing. Hey, I have questions about open farm days. You're never going to waste our time by asking questions. I just want to make that really clear. I don't think I've said it yet, is that we want to talk to you. We are public health inspectors. We are open to the public. We want to talk to the public. Call us. There is no stupid questions. There is no, well, I just don't want to be a bother. Go ahead and bother us. Leave us a voicemail. We want to know what's going on in the community and we want to support you as best we can to have really good events. So yeah, even though it's a charity barbecue, you still fall under open farm days. We'd need to hear about it and we'd want to talk to them about safe food as well.
If I am giving away food instead of selling it, do I require a permit?
Yes, you do. Even if you're giving it away, you are still a special event that is open to the public and you are serving food to the public. So you would still need a special event approval.
Okay. Do I need a permit for low risk foods?
So now we're getting into the fun stuff. The word permit, remember, is for a food handling permit.
Yeah, approval.
Right? If we're talking about approvals, we still want to know that you're doing open farm days, even if it is low risk foods, right? It may seem kind of silly that, yeah, I have to tell them that I'm going to be serving just packets of chips. Just let us know that it's happening. Because again, we're going to talk to you about bathrooms. We're going to talk to you about hand washing. We're going to talk to you about cow patty bingo. Like we still talk about more things than just food. I know food is such a huge component of this because it's the end result of all of your hard work and you want to show it off. But we still really focus in on bathrooms. That's one of our big things. Contact with animals is another big thing that we really focus on, even if it's not directly related to food. So even if you're just giving it away, even if you are just doing the prepared, low risk home prepared foods, still just let us know that you're doing it. We might just have a phone call. Okay, cool. This is what you're doing. We like it. Have fun. We've still made that connection to make sure that you have the other stuff covered as well.
Right. So, and I think one of the questions, and this is something that I get all the time as well, is there's a difference between what you're required to do versus maybe what you might like as an AHS person. So, you know, somebody is coming on my farm and I've got chips and Coke, and that's it, and they're having their open farm days experience. I mean, they don't really need approval for that.
Yes and no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the gray area,
I can
right?
see
Like,
it is gray, right? And like I said, we're public health inspectors. We want to talk to you. If we're going through your event notification form, we'll tell you what the legal requirement is and what best practice is, right? So legally, you only have to have this many bathrooms, but you know what? Best practice is to have a few more. Legally, you only have to do this, but best practice is this. If you're doing the low risk chips and Coke, that's the only thing that's being sold. Like I said, best practice, you know what? Talk to us all the same, right? Could be something that you might want to think about doing, or you've come up with a plan later. Right now, your plan is chips and pop. You know what? Maybe I want to have barbecue. You know what? Maybe that's something I want to do as well. So then we definitely do want to be talking to you. And I mean, I talk to, like with rodeo week that we have here in St. Paul, even though it's all for charity, it is all, you know, people have been doing this for years and years and years. I still call and talk to them about it, make sure nothing's changed. You know what? Just talk to us, right? I mean, what's the harm that's going to come out of it? We're not going to come in and try and jam this all up for you. We're just going to ask some questions, see what you're doing. Just chips and pop, you're having 20 people. Cool. Have a good event type of thing, right? We like to make that connection with people.
absolutely. So I think that should be like one of our takeaways for our farming partners out there, is that what Eric is really saying is it's not in position to have that conversation with them. They're here to help. They're here to support them. They might have some ideas and thought and things that you haven't thought of. Not everything does require approval, but there's no harm in actually finding out who your local health person is, and being able to have them to ask questions and clarify things and get answers to stuff. So we encourage you to kind of reach out and to make those contacts. You don't need approvals for everything, but it certainly doesn't hurt to know who your local person is and to have a good working relationship with them.
And
So
yeah, and I guess I probably should have explained that a little bit more. Just by notifying us doesn't mean that it's something that requires an approval, right? I've been focusing on when it is that open food handling and selling and that type of stuff. Just letting us know what's going on. That doesn't mean you're necessarily seeking approval to do it. It doesn't mean that we're going to give the approval for it. We used to give out approval letters. We don't do that anymore. It's all by conversation or email at this point, for the small guys at least. So it's not that you're necessarily seeking approval. That's what we call it because of how complex these things can get, is that the big guys need approval. A lot of this is just information sharing. And some of it, yeah, the open food handling is approval. The chips and pop, you're just letting us know what's going on. We just want to, you know, it's a conversation. We're not going to be going out necessarily and inspecting everything. We're not trying to prevent you from doing anything. We really just want to make sure it's a safe and healthy event. And you submit this, it's just chips and pop. We call and confirm that, okay, have a good event. We're not doing anything further than that at this point. I can't imagine us doing anything with that, to be perfectly honest. If you, like I said, had like 10 vendors coming in a circus and all this stuff, yeah, we're going to probably come out and see you and beforehand and make sure you got the space and everything's good. But this really is just making that connection, because you also talk to us about your well water or your cisterns or anything like that, because we do well water testing. We do cistern testing as well. So it's a good time to even talk to us. I'm like, hey, I haven't sampled my well in 22 years. Should I do something? Or now I have a smelly water. And oh, by the way, I'm part of Open Farm Days. We can connect on multiple different levels as well.
right. And then one last thing, and then I think we can close it out, but we've had a few permits that have gone in and then haven't heard a lot back.
Oh, yes, the process.
Yeah. So if you could just touch on that briefly.
Okay. to be fair, in our defense, we did change up our entire system 2 years ago. We have a new online submission system. We're actually still doing revisions on a lot of our backend software. So things, unfortunately, in the past have gone missing, which is by no means okay, but it did unfortunately happen. So what happens is, let's flip over to here. This will be a good way to do it because I can sort of show you a little bit. Popping into here, back to our environmental public health page, you want to request a service. Okay, so this is what it looks like. We ask you to only submit it once. We will get to you. If you've already submitted it by email or this online portal system, we will get in touch with you. Don't call us to ask us if we got your thing yet. Give us a little bit of time to get to it. So if you haven't heard from us, let's say you submit it at the beginning of July and you haven't heard by the end of July, give us a call. Okay, the contact numbers are there. You can submit through our public health portal as well. So, right, if you haven't heard from us in a month, call us and check, but don't call us 20 minutes later and ask if we got it yet. So what happens is it goes through our submission process. This is not the form that used to be. Okay, so we'll do it differently. So what happens is this all goes to a centralized email. We have one admin for close to 130 inspectors across the province who handles all of our online submissions. It does take time to get to them. Her goal is to get to them within 48 hours for further disbursement. So they are located in the North Zone. So what will happen is if you're in St. Paul County, you are submitting your special event form, pardon me. It goes to her. She's like, hey, this falls into Erica's districts. She sends a notification on to me. It shows up on my dashboard. And then I'm like, cool, it's there. And I start working through it, right? It might sit on my dashboard for a little bit before I can get to it due to the volume of other things that come up. But I do see it on my dashboard. I do a quick review. Kate, this is something that's coming up soon. I should deal with it. And then I fit it into my plan. If you live in South Zone, so it'll still come to our North Zone administrator. She sends that over to the South Zone administrator. They figure out who district it goes to, and it goes to that district's inspector for further follow-up at that point. It gets really fun when people go on vacation, and you guys are in August, and July and August is prime vacation time. It will go to the inspector's dashboards. The covering inspector should be checking the dashboards of the people they're covering for. However, things happen, right? I wound up going off for 2 months unexpectedly with a broken ankle, and they were scrambling for coverage. And I know my dashboard sat for probably a week before anybody got a chance to look at it. So that gives you kind of an idea of where it goes and how we work on the back end a little bit with the paperwork. Like I said, if it's been more than a month that you've submitted it and you haven't heard from us, submit through this online portal system. Call the number that I believe is on one of the pages for our central intake line, anything like that. So let's say I submitted this a month ago. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm a little worried. I don't know who my inspector is. It's gone off into the abyss. I don't know what's happened. Because COVID-19 has been a thing, we do have separate ones specifically for COVID-19. If you are not dealing with that, it's not one of those related complaints, just ignore them. You're not making a complaint, right? You're asking for help, sampling, education. I talked to you a month ago, nobody's called me since. So open farm days, 9. And I said I was in, oh, they made it a click down, hooray. This will help you a little bit here. So you find your closest, whether you're in a county, township, hamlet, you find what is for you. We're going to pretend I'm in Castellan. I actually don't know where that is, but it's in Athabasca. So select. I haven't had too much time to travel around and explore things yet, unfortunately. So contact information, Erica Denine, 780-645-2296. Okay, that's how you get in touch with me. I submitted open farm days application and no one has called me. Can someone please get in touch? Okay.
Sure.
A month
And I think
ago.
the big thing is, sometimes it was some of the farms were thinking like, no news is good news. Haven't heard back. I sent it in
Yes.
way in advance of my deadlines, so everything must be fine.
Yes.
That is not the case. You should hear back, and these channels will get you to the right place kind of quickly if you don't know who your person is. You can always call one of the offices as well, but you can also use their online system, and it does get you, there is that narrowed down and get you right to where you need to go. So do feel free to use those ones.
Yep.
For Open Farm Days, we will be prompting you and saying, hey, guess what? We are now 60 days out. So why don't you submit your forms? So you'll get the nudges from us. So that's not a problem.
Yep. So yeah, and thank you for mentioning that as well, is that no news is not good news. Even if it's a low risk event that's only doing the chips and pop, we still would like to just touch base, like even so that you know that we got your application. And I will openly admit, I'm a very involved inspector. I want to make sure you're having a really great time, a good event. I've made those connections even on those low risk, something I don't really need to follow up on, I don't need to give approval on. I still want to call you because you made the effort to reach out to me. I want to make sure that I've at least connected with you, even only by email. Hey, I saw your thing. This isn't something that we're really following up on. Please make sure you do this, this, and this. Have a great event. Call me if you have any further questions, right? I cannot speak for the entire zone and all of the inspectors. I can only speak for myself and how I do it. But 99% of us are like that we do want to have some connection back to you if you reach out to us. I just cannot tell you to what degree. I cannot tell you the timelines because every district is different for our needs and what's going on in that area at the time. So, and I'm really glad you did bring that up. No news is not good news. You should hear something from us at some point about this. So one thing I do want to point out, because it is contacting public health and we do fall under some different legislation for privacy and stuff as well. My address is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Minburn, geez, county. So one thing, just so you do know that anything that you do submit falls under FOIP, so Freedom of Information and Privacy rates. What you submit to us is private. We do not release it back into the community for any reason other than what is legally required at that time and with the minimal amount of information that is required. It is actually pretty hard to get some stuff from us. We are very, very cognizant of privacy and what's required. So if you submit complaint to us, if you talk to us about Open Farm Days, we don't go say, did you know that Joe Blow down the street's doing this, 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 and this, until you have said it to somebody else first or have announced it publicly first. We don't release your water results to anybody but you or the name that's on the form, those types of things there. And everything that you do submit to us through our online websites, our online portal system is considered FOIP and it is considered private privileged information. We never disclose who complained to us. So if you're gonna, just kind of getting off topic here, if you're complaining to us about a restaurant that's doing this or somebody's doing that or someone's, dumping sewage in the lake, we never tell who told us this. It's always, we got a complaint from the public that you're dumping your sewage in the lake. Let's have a chat, right? So everything does stay private with us until it is, goes through the proper channels. If it is FOIPed, as we call it, and that's a whole other thing there. So yeah, no one's talked to me in a month. Can someone please get in touch? Here's my name, where I'm listed, my phone number. And I can go in and deal with this one because I know how to access it. So I will submit it and submit. And it worked. There you go. So if anything ever happens, okay, you submitted that to us, and then we don't get back to you, it's been a week, you have this confirmation code. You can submit it again and put, this is my old confirmation code, or you can call. If you haven't heard from us a month and you've submitted an online request or called us and we still haven't called back, call us again. right? Like I said, coverage in the summer can be interesting because of so many vacation and stuff that's going on. And I will tell you right now, almost every zone is running short staffed right now. So it's not that we don't want to talk to you. It's not that we're ignoring you. It's just, you know what? If you haven't heard anything in a month, please reach out to us so we can see what's going on.
Marvelous. Now we do have an update from Joanne. We know where Caslin is now. It is between Boyle and Lac La Biche next to Buffalo, Lake Métis.
Oh,
so there you
okay.
go.
I actually know where that is. I think I have driven past that on my way to Fort Mac, but never paid attention to the sign.
Very good.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, so thank you so much. Thank you for walking us through that. I think that is just incredibly invaluable because sometimes some of those boxes seem like, oh gosh, I'm not sure exactly what they're looking for. I know some people will say, hey, we expect to have, 800 people for open farm days, but it's not 800 at once. It's 800 over 2 days. So it's 400 a day. And we never expect to have more than 50 at a time. So, understanding what we can put down and how we can kind of work with these documents, I think makes a huge difference. So thank you so much. And we absolutely appreciate your time for it. For everyone that's on here, our next session is next week. We've got Tony Hazelwood from AGLC, and we're going to be talking about liquor licenses for special events. So look forward to having you guys back for that one. If you do have any questions about the session, feel free to send me an email, but you will get the recording plus the 1-pager for it. And although we would love to have Erica as our point person to answer questions for all of you, as she's indicated, each of the zones have its own person. And the reason for that is there's unique things that are happening in each area. So, Erica can't answer a question for a region that's not her own because she might not know what's going on with well waters there or specific, things that are happening in that community. So it really is important to have the independent ones. So Erica's great for answering those sort of general questions. But when we go back and say you need to talk to your local person, it is because of the uniqueness of each region that there is not one necessarily hard and fixed answer for everything. So I think that is it. So if there's no other questions, thank you, everybody. And we look forward to kind of getting all these forms and everything started and planning our open farm days events. All right. Thank you, Erica. We're gonna stop recording.